What if I told you that the reality you know is not all that exists? That your mind, your thoughts and even your emotions are vibrating at a different frequency, shaping your life experience without you realizing? The truth is that many people are already crossing the portals of the fifth dimension, but still bound to the limitations of the third. They feel that something is changing, that their priorities are no longer the same, but they no longer know how to explain why. Suddenly, conversations that were previously engaged seem empty. Places that once brought comfort now cause discomfort. Some friendships distance themselves for no apparent reason. And deep down, that feeling that it is time to look for something greater, to connect with a deeper purpose. But is this just a phase or a clear sign that your energy frequency is changing? The big question is that this transition does not happen with a clear warning. It manifests itself subtly in the details of everyday life. Perhaps you have already felt a call to meditation, a larger connection with the universe, or even to move away from certain people who drain your energy. Perhaps you have realized that your intuition is sharper, or that certain thinking patterns no longer make sense. All of this are clear signs that your perception is expanding, and denying it will only make the process more confusing. In this video, you will find out if you are already vibrating in the fifth dimension and how this awakening can completely transform your life. If any of these sensations make sense to you, then it's time to understand what is happening and learn to navigate this new reality. Ready to see the world with new eyes? Something strange has happened to many people. Suddenly, what once brought satisfaction begins to lose its shine. Relationships that seemed fundamental begin to seem heavy, and the search for something deeper becomes inevitable. This change is not a mere whim or a passing phase, but a reflection of the elevation of the energy frequency. Without realizing it, many people are already crossing the portals of the fifth dimension, a space for expansion of perception and awakening of consciousness. It is not about escaping reality, but seeing it from a new perspective. And then, without notice, interests change. What was once fascinating, focus, competitions, incessant search for validation, now it seems empty. The connection to the universe begins to be more important than the connection to outdated standards. The feeling of no longer belonging to certain places or groups becomes inevitable, but it is no reason for despair. It is just a sign that the soul is asking for something bigger. Spiritual transformation does not happen suddenly but subtly, like a veil that rises slowly, revealing a new reality. The change does not only affect tastes and habits, but also relationships. Suddenly, certain people seem to succeed energy. Not because they are bad, but because their vibrations are no longer compatible. The quality of the connections now imports more than quantity. The desire to remain in harmonious environments grows, and conscious isolation becomes an act of self-confidence, not solitude. Many wonder, am I getting insensitive? In fact, it is exactly the opposite. It is an awakening to more authentic relationships, based on unconditional love and reciprocity. This process can be confusing and even painful, but it is necessary. What was comfortable in the past can become an obstacle in the present. And that's fine. Life is not about stagnation, but about evolution. When this change is allowed, what once seemed like a problem becomes a growth opportunity. And the more the mind expands, the clearer the need to filter not only what is consumed externally, but also internally, thoughts, emotions, and especially energy and vibration. Something curious happens when a person's frequency rises. What was once engaging now seems superficial. Conversations that revolve around complaints, judgments, or futility lose meaning. The mind begins to seek something deeper, something that resonates with the new perception of reality. It's like watching a movie that was already exciting, but now it seems predictable and bland. Not because the movie has changed, but because those who watch are no longer the same. This is one of the clear signs of the awakening of consciousness. Careers before rewarding may seem empty. What was previously seen as success loses its brightness, and the search for a greater purpose intensifies. Some people feel confused, trying to force themselves to like what no longer makes sense. But resisting only makes the process more difficult. The secret lies in the acceptance of the present and the understanding that this transition is not a loss but a realignment. It's time to ask yourself, what really makes me vibrate? And follow this answer, even if it goes against what others expect. Relationships are also impacted. Friendships based only on surface interests begin to dissolve. People's energy becomes noticeable, and the need for authentic interactions grows. It is not about judging those who are still stuck with old standards, but of choosing consciously where to invest their energy. Often this means to detach from the past and allow new connections, more aligned with this expansion of perception, enter life. After all, everything in existence is movement. The transition to this new reality can cause insecurity. The mind resists, trying to cling to what you already know. But it is at this moment that intuition strengthens itself, guiding every step. Practices such as meditation, reflective writing, and contact with nature help bring clarity. Questions like, what brings me peace, and what is draining my energy? They are powerful to understand where to go. The answer is almost always inside, and not out. And upon hearing this answer, the next step becomes inevitable, learning to value the company itself. Many people confuse loneliness with isolation, but there is an essential difference between the two. Conscious isolation is not to escape the world, but to protect its own energy frequency. When someone awakens to the fifth dimension, he begins to realize that the quality of silence can be more enriching than empty conversations. The desire to be alone does not come from sadness, but from a profound need for self-denial. It is like a traveler who moves away from the noisy city to hear his own breath. This collection period becomes essential for emotional balance. Amid the chaos of the world, those seeking spiritual growth understand that solitude is a space of transformation. Great spiritual masters have gone through such moments. Jesus retired to the desert. Buddha meditated under the fig tree until it reaches the lighting. This does not mean that it is necessary to live isolated, but what moments of reflection are essential to maintain clarity and inner strength. Solitude also teaches to differentiate grace from genuine connection. Often people surround each other just to avoid the inner emptiness. But those who learn to enjoy the company itself develops a relationship of self-confidence and self-acceptance. Instead of seeking external distractions, it begins to use time alone for activities that raise their vibration, meditation, inspiring reading, or even walking in the midst of nature. Solitude is no longer a burden and becomes a gift. And the most interesting, the more anyone feels good about himself, the more he attracts authentic connections. Energy changes and suddenly new people arise, aligned with this high frequency. There is no need to begging attention or insisting on toxic relationships. The universe responds to the vibration that is issued. And when you learn to value your own presence, life comes to bring connections that really make sense. The question now is, how to protect this newly discovered energy? Not all connections are beneficial. Some people, even without intention, carry an energy that drains our life force. It is those conversations that leave a weight in the chest, those environments that suck the lightness of the soul. People's energy is real, and learning to identify it is essential to maintaining emotional balance. It is not a matter of judging or excluding, but of understanding that personal vibration needs to be protected. After all, just as no one drinks contaminated water, it also makes no sense to absorb energies that harm the soul. Creating distance from toxic relationships is not selfishness, but an act of self-confidence and self-love. There are those who confuse compassion with tolerance to what is bad, but they are quite different things. Protecting one's own energy means choosing with conscience where and with whom to spend time. This may involve from avoiding stressful discussions to reducing exposure to negative content. The key question is, does this raise my vibration or reduce it? If the answer is negative, it is a clear sign that the energy needs to be safeguarded. Daily practices help maintain high vibration. Meditation, baths with coarse salt, contact with nature, and even the simple choice of music and inspiring readings make all the difference. An effective technique is visualization. Before leaving home, imagine yourself wrapped in a golden light that blocks any negative energy. It sounds simple, but the mind responds to symbols and intentions. Over time, this becomes a natural barrier against external influences. And most interestingly, by learning how to protect your energy, the perception of relationships changes. One begins to realize who brings lightness and who generates weight. Where ties are naturally crumbled, while new connections appear more fluidly. And in this process, something fundamental happens. The heart opens to much greater love, a love that transcends expectations and conditions. When consciousness expands, the way of seeing the world changes. Judgment gives way to understanding, and expectations dissolve in the face of acceptance. Unconditional love is not a romantic or idealized feeling, but a state of being. It does not depend on what the other does or fails to do, because it is born of a deep connection with their own essence. Instead of waiting for others to supply our needs, we learn to overflow what we already cultivate within us. This love goes beyond personal relationships. He manifests himself in the form of empathy and compassion, in the ability to look at the mistakes of others without condemnation, but with understanding. This does not mean accepting everything passively, but to understand that each person is in their own stage of evolution. A simple example: when a child misses when learning to walk, no one scolds her. The same goes for life. We are all learning. This compassionate look changes the way we deal with conflicts and frustrations. And when this love becomes the basis of existence, something magical happens. The quality of the connections improves. Instead of grace and collection-based bonds, relationships sustained by freedom and mutual respect arise. The requirements decrease, as there is no longer the illusion that the other must fill an internal void. There is only the genuine desire to share without strings. And this change reflects in all areas of life, from friendships to relationship with oneself. But loving unconditionally does not mean accepting everything without limits. On the contrary, it is a state that requires discernment. Some people still vibrate at frequencies of manipulation and imbalance, and that doesn't mean we need to keep ties at any cost. True love also includes respect for itself. And when this conscience awakens, something inside guides us more and more. An internal call strengthens. Intuition has always been present, but few people really listen to it. Often that subtle feeling is drowned out by the noise of logic, fear, and external expectations. But as consciousness expands, this inner voice becomes clearer and impossible to ignore. Intuition is like an internal GPS, always pointing the best way. When aligned with the right energy frequency, decisions flow effortlessly, and life unfolds surprisingly. The problem is that the rational mind tends to question everything. How many times has anyone felt they should go away, but was convinced by the common sense to do the opposite? And then did you realize that you should have followed the first impulse? This is because intuition captures information that logic cannot yet process. Those who learn to trust her avoid regrets and open to incredible opportunities. Want a practical example? Begin to write down every time you feel strongly feeling about something. With time, it will be clear how accurate this voice is. Meditation is a great ally in this process. Inner silence strengthens the ability to hear intuition more clearly. Small daily habits, such as paying attention to the sensations of the body, practicing conscious breathing and questioning their own perceptions less, helps tune in this connection. Another powerful practice is to ask mentally before bed, what do I need to know about this situation? Many answers come through dreams or subtle insights throughout the day. And when one begins to trust in this internal guide, life is no longer a sea of uncertainty. The choices are lighter, and the need to seek external approval decreases. The natural flow of the universe becomes more evident, and everything seems to fit in with synchronicity. And the more one lives this way, the clearer is an essential teaching: life does not happen in the future or in the past, but now. The past is gone, the future does not yet exist. However, most people live anywhere but now. Arrested to old regrets or concerns about what is to come, let the only moment that really matters, the present. Those who awaken to the fifth dimension understand that the true achievement is not to reach something up front, but to be totally conscious at the present moment. This is where life happens, and this is where the manifestation of reality becomes possible. Living in the present does not mean ignoring the future, but to realize that it is built with the choices made now. A restless mind tends to wander between, what if it had been different, and what if something goes wrong? But every thought that is lost in the past or in the future steals the opportunity to feel life fully. A simple practice to bring consciousness to the present is to ask yourself throughout the day, what am I feeling now? What is happening around me? This full attention helps to avoid anxiety and brings more inner peace. The secret is in the conscious presence. Small changes make all the difference: eating, paying attention to the taste of foods, walking by watching every detail around, listening to someone with real interest, without just waiting to answer. The quality of experience changes completely when it is really present. And it is no coincidence that the happiest people are those who can enjoy the moment, without getting stuck to what has gone through or what can happen. And there is a bonus: when you live in the present, intuition is strengthened, synchronicities increase, and everything seems to flow more lightly. Time is no longer an enemy and becomes an ally. Each moment becomes an opportunity for learning, healing, and expansion. And with this new consciousness, a transformative perception arises: happiness does not come from outside, but is born inside. Many people spend their lives hoping that something external make them happy: a relationship, a salary increase, the recognition of others. But those who awaken to the fifth dimension realize that this search is an illusion. True happiness does not come from outside, but from within. And this is one of the most liberating lessons, and at the same time, more challenging. Taking responsibility for their own happiness means stopping blaming the past, circumstances, or other people. It means understanding that joy is not in something that is conquered, but in the way it is chosen to see life. The first step is to develop a look of gratitude. Instead of focusing on what is missing, it is essential to recognize what you already have. Studies show that people who practice gratitude daily experience higher levels of happiness and well-being. A simple but powerful exercise is to write 3 good things that happened the day before bed. This trains the mind to realize the positive aspects of life rather than attaching to difficulties. After all, the way you see reality defines the quality of the experience. Another key to authentic happiness is forgiveness. Storing resentment only keeps pain alive. When it is understood that forgiving is not about each other, but about breaking free from the weight of the past, everything changes. This does not mean accepting injustices, but to choose not to carry the negative emotions they have caused. Self-acceptance is also part of this process. And when this responsibility is assumed, something amazing happens: the need to seek external validation disappears. Happiness ceases to depend on external factors and becomes a conscious decision. Changes in the outside world become only reflexes of what was transformed internally. And with this new mindset, an even deeper understanding arises: nothing happens by chance. Each experience has a purpose, and each meeting brings a teaching. Nothing happens by chance. Coincidences do not exist. That person who came up at the right time, that book that appeared in response to a doubt, that unexpected event that changed everything, all this is part of a larger plan. The connection with the universe becomes evident when one realizes that life is not a random succession of events, but an intelligent flow of synchronized experiences. When energy frequency rises, this perception becomes undeniable. The question is, how to strengthen this connection? The first step is to develop the ability to perceive the signs. The universe communicates in a variety of ways, through dreams, numerical repetitions, such as the famous 1111, sudden intuitions, or even messages that appear in casual conversations. Often, the answer that is sought is already around, just hoping that attention will be directed to her. A practical exercise is, upon waking, mentally asking, "What does the universe want to show me today?" And then, observe the events with more presence. Another important aspect is to learn to trust the natural flow of life. Not everything needs to be controlled. When it is understood that each experience, even the challenges, has a purpose, anxiety decreases. Instead of trying to force results, it comes to act clearly and allow the universe to do its part. Often, resistance prevents something better from happening. Have you noticed that some of the best opportunities come when you least expect it? This is because life flows better when it surrenders to your greatest intelligence. And the more fascinating is that this connection is strengthened the more intuition is used as a guide. Life becomes a constant dialogue with the universe, where each step opens new possibilities. But this perception leads to an even more powerful conclusion: if everything is interconnected and every thought shapes reality, then the power to create one's own life is in the hands of each one. Most people grow up believing that life simply happens, that fate is predetermined and that little can be done to change circumstances. But this is one of the greatest illusions of the third dimension. Those who awaken to the fifth dimension realize that each thought, emotion and decision directly influences reality itself. The mind is not just an information processor, but a powerful tool for manifestation of reality. Everything that focuses on gains strength and materializes, if positive or negative. What does this mean in practice? It means that you need to consciously choose where to put attention. People who live complaining always find more reasons to complain. Already those that cultivate a mindset of gratitude and abundance begin to attract more opportunities and solutions. A practical exercise is to replace negative thoughts with questions such as, "What can I learn from this situation?" or "How can I turn it into something positive?" Small changes in the way of thinking generates deep impacts on personal vibration and, consequently, on life's results. Meditation is also a great ally in this process. When the mind is calm, it is easier to identify thinking patterns and redirect them to something higher. Clearly visualizing what you want to create is a practice used by great directors. Olympic athletes, successful entrepreneurs, and spiritual masters know that before something materialized in the physical world, it needs to exist in the mind with clarity and intention. The question that remains is, if you could create any reality, what would it be? And here is the most transformative point: it is not just about desiring, but of acting according to this new vibration. Each daily choice reinforces or weakens the reality you want to manifest. When this consciousness becomes part of everyday life, life is no longer a game of bad luck and becomes a field of infinite possibilities. And in assuming this power, the transformation is inevitable. Now, only one question remains: if everything is in your hands, what are you going to create from today? Now that you understand the signs of the fifth dimension, the question that remains is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Will you keep ignoring the signs, or will you accept that your expansion of perception has begun? Awakening of consciousness is not something that happens outside, but inside you. And the more you allow yourself to live in now, connect with your intuition and cultivate gratitude, the more this new reality becomes clear and accessible. But beware, this transition can be challenging. Some people around you may not understand, some situations may seem confusing. And that's exactly why it is essential to learn to protect your energy, practice conscious isolation when necessary, and strengthen your self-confidence. You are not alone on this journey. Many people are going through the same process, and the more we share, the easier it gets. Now tell me in the comments, have you noticed any of these signs in your life? Did you feel changes in your vibration, your relationships, or the way you see the world? I want to know your experience. And if this content has made sense to you, subscribe to the channel and enable notifications, because we still have a lot to explore about this awakening. After all, this journey is just starting.